So yeah, so we're gonna go over these. For the most part, they're pretty much gonna be the same, but there's some differences with hard drive bays, and some of them are probably gonna be a little bit more powerful, have powerful processors. But this is the Z9X. But one thing I will say is I really like that they just blacked them all out. I didn't mind the silver on the original Z9X. However, like some of the other ones, like the ZIDOO Z20. I didn't like the way it looked, but I like the way that these look. So this is the new one. This is the Z9X, and then you've got it looks like it's pretty much exactly the same chassis. So there's that, and then on the back, so it looks like they took away the HDMI in on the Z9X Pro because we were talking about that before too. On the original Z9X, I think you could plug something else in, but it was only picture in picture,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird because it's like I'm not watching cable. I'm not trying to watch two different movies at the same time. Like I'm not going to plug a Roku into it and then like it was just kind of weird. But now it looks like it's only HDMI. So yeah, so you've got your gigabit LAN, you've got your USB 3.0, you've got your HDMI, which is 2.1 now. So that's one of the biggest changes that they've made. You still got your optical, your AV out, RS-232, your DC 12 volt power, and then your on and off switch, and then you've got your Dolby Vision HDR10 logos, and then this I believe is remote is new. I don't think mine looks like no. This is new. So my remote's different. My remote's a different color. I don't know what the size is, but this looks like it's a little bit smaller. However, I don't even use my remote because I have a Harmony Elite, and I just control everything. But it looks like the remote is a little bit smaller.
That was my very first comment. It's like the flimsy looking, it just feels,
Yeah, see the one I have,
doesn't
I think
feel
is bigger.
quality. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you
It
go.
feels so lightweight and doesn't even come with batteries, but that's okay.
So the new ZIDOO players they come with HDMI 2.1, which the other ones are HDMI 2.0. So you'll be able to get your. So that's the only thing I'm confused about because for movies you really don't need HDMI 2.1 because HDMI 2.1 supports 4K, 4K 120, VR and stuff like that. I don't really. I mean, there's no content for movies that are 4K 120. There's a couple movies that maybe have like the high frame rate, which I could see would be beneficial. But I mean, I guess it's good to have to be future proofed with HDMI 2.1, and you get a couple other things like eARC, so you do have that if you're running some legacy receivers or something that doesn't support eARC, and you want to pull the audio.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, that's kind of what I noticed too when I saw the HDMI 2.1. But I think it does make sense, right? It's 2023. If you're going to, I don't think they do yearly releases, right? So if you're going to
Right.
build anything in 2023 going into the near future, you might as well just put the chipset for HDMI 2.1, and it helps with your chain, right? Because if you have everything else HDMI 2.1, then, well, with the exception of most projectors, then it only makes sense that your ZIDOO player in that chain has 2.1, and it might just be their product release for the next couple of years. So
Right. Which is good because yeah, I don't need to update my ZIDOO every year. So let's see, new 2023 version chipset. So it's got a Realtek RTD 1619 BPD chipset. I don't know what any of that means, but I guess it's better than the previous. Let's see what's new news. Still got the Dolby Vision profiles, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels. I don't know about all those levels, including dual layer profiles 4 and 7. If anybody in the chat knows what that stuff means, like, let us know. I just know what Dolby Vision is. I know what low latency Dolby Vision is. I know what it does, but I don't know about all the different like profiles and stuff.
yeah, I started reading into that, and I was like, you know what, that's not even going to. But yes, they do have different Dolby Vision profiles, and they're used on different players and different types of transcoding, I believe. So, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So supports HDR10 Plus and HDR10 and HOG HDR10. Okay, so HDMI 2.1. So yeah, so it has 4K 60 and 12-bit BT20 wide color with 444 color space. So yeah, like I said, there's like a handful of movies that do 4K 60. I know Gemini Man, I believe, is 4K 60, but I think like what the Hobbit movies, I know those are high frame rate, but I think those are 48 FPS. So I don't really see a whole lot of movies like supporting that, but again, it's good to be future proof with that stuff. Storage or RAM, you got 4 gigs of RAM with DDR4 RAM, 32 gig on board. I don't know if that's different from the previous Z9X, if they've upgraded that. You've got the ZIDOO home theater, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's see, video players. So you've got HDR10 Plus, HDR10, MVC 3D. So you pretty much everything is, I think, is going to be the same on format support. I don't think they've added anything, but they didn't take anything away either. Let's see. So you'll be able to update it with firmware updates. Yeah, it looks like everything's pretty much the same. So yeah, ISO. This is what's different than your NVIDIA Shield and stuff like that. So yeah, so for those of you that don't know, you can do ISO playback. So you can rip your Blu-rays, your 3D Blu-rays into an ISO format, which will give you like full support, full resolution, full discs, stuff like that. Now it's going to be a lot bigger size than just ripping like an MKV where it just takes out the video and the audio. But for those of you that like to have your deleted scenes, your director's cut, stuff like that, all the extras and stuff on that, you can have that with an ISO file and with the BDMV folder as well, I believe.
Yep.
So looks like it also supports DLNA and AirPlay and Spotify, which I don't think the Z9X supported AirPlay. I think that's new. And Spotify, I think that's new as well, because I don't think I can do that on mine. It does have a music player, like their standard music player. Now this is interesting. So web browser remote access. You couldn't do this on the Z9X before, which I'm very excited about that, because that's going the way of like stuff that like receivers and stuff that are doing that, where you can go to a web GUI and go in there and just tinker, configure all the stuff that you need. You don't even really have to use your remote if you don't want to. So I'm glad to see that they're adding this, and I'm sure you'll test that out.
Yeah, I already tested that out, and
okay.
It's basically, it provides you the IP, and you can just put it in your browser, and then it allows you to be able to install like APKs and upload files into the player.
Awesome.
So you don't always have to either use a USB. Because
Okay.
initially that's what I was doing. I was trying to install certain things, and I was like, USB to computer, USB. I got tired, and it's like, well, I guess I'll just read the freaking manual like normal people
Right.
do, right? And then, I got information about that, and I tried it, and it was just easy upload. Once you upload it, it gives you a prompt on the screen, and then you can install what you want. So, that's a good feature to add.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to see that they did that. And then they also have a ZIDOO remote app, which if you haven't used it, if you have one, that thing is like, I don't use it all the time, and I'm trying to use it more, but that is actually like really awesome. And I talk about that in my review of the Z9X. So this is the ZIDOO Z20 Pro. So again, looks like it's pretty much the same chassis. It's just black, and then it's got, you're just going to have your HDMI 2.1. So I think, me and Ike were talking offline, but I think this is probably going to be the one that I'm going to upgrade to. I would like to get one of the bigger ones, but, it's a little bit more expensive, but this is a little bit more reasonable, and it has a hard drive base. So this one, it's got the same ports. This one, however, does look like it has some legacy connections here. I wouldn't use those. I don't know if anybody's still using these. but they give you that option, I guess, because it's a bigger chassis. So there's the back, and then you've got your hard drive on the side. So I don't think I would, so right now I'm using an Epson LS12000, and before I was using the Epson 5040UB, which had, the 3D capabilities. Unfortunately, the 12000 doesn't have 3D, so what I was going to do before is I was just going to like upload all my 3D, rips to a hard drive and just stick it in there. But I don't know. I may get this one and put some, maybe offload some of the stuff on my server, or just put like some of my favorite content, or like stuff that I'm going to use for review to have quick access. But this one has a drive bay. Everything else is probably going to be pretty much the same. So the internal drive bay supports, it's weird, max 17.6 terabytes. That's a really weird number. I don't know where they're getting that number from. So I'm assuming it's probably just a 16 terabyte, which what, the other ones were, the previous ones. But 16 terabytes for the drive bay, SATA 3. And yeah, it looks like everything is probably going to be about the same. I think the other two may have like a better chip, but I'm trying to see if there's anything else that's different down here.
Yeah, I think it's all just the same spec, just put in different sizes of box.
Yeah.
With additional drive bays.
But what I like too is that these players they're very cheap, and I don't mean like cheap like in quality, like cheap in price.
Yeah.
Like the original ZIDOO Z9X, when I bought it, I believe it was $229, and now it's what is this, $253? So it went up by like 20-30 bucks. I was thinking they were going to jack the prices up a lot more, but I mean $253 for this, like this is I actually think that they could be selling it for more. But yeah, $372 for this. This is pretty good. I mean, you can't beat that.
I mean, the only reason why I did not even get the 2600, I believe, was I wasn't sure about the shipping, right? So I was like, I'm just going to get the cheapest one and play it safe, but yeah.
Yeah. So did I miss this before? I thought there was only...
No, they have 5.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I must have missed one. Okay, so that's the second one. So you have the Z9X, which is basically your entry level. I'm just going to call it your entry level. The next one is going to be your Z2000 or Z20 Pro, and then the next one is going to be the Z2000 Pro. So this is the one that I really wanted, even on the Legacy, the previous version. So I believe this one has, does this one have 2 drive bays? Or it just has like a better chip in it. So you've got your HDMI. Yeah, I can't make this bigger.
I mean, it says they all have the 1619 BD chipset, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's a little confusing why they have the 2600 and then turn
I don't
around
understand that.
Why they have the Z20 Pro, and then for a few $100s you can get the Z2000 Pro, and then for about another $100 you can get the Z2600.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see, if there's like, what's the actual difference, because it's like, yeah, what would make it, why would somebody spend more money over the other ones? If somebody knows in the chat, you can drop them in there. So this is the Z2600. That's $647, and then I guess their flagship would be this one, the UHD 5000. So we're looking at $1,000, which is still cheaper than ZPD players. Like the base model ZPD player, I want to say it's like $400 or $500. So if you go into the Z9X with no hard drive bay and you just use this over the network, $250. That's like, I don't think you can beat that for what it does. So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. $250 to get into this, and it's gonna perform. It's gonna way outperform something like an Nvidia Shield or an Apple TV or any of that stuff. See, Joe Wire says, I have a few hundred Ultra HD discs, might need to start ripping. Is my time worth a Kaleidoscape? I mean, if you have... So, Kaleidoscape to me is more of a convenience. And it's very good at what it does. It's awesome. It's just the price tag is just what is unattainable for most. But I will say, if you're just looking for convenience, then yeah, go with the Kaleidoscape. You'll get stuff, movies and digital stuff like weeks before it comes out on Blu-ray. But if you want like the option to do 3D, it's not going to do that. If you want ISO, it's not going to do that. If you want BDMV, it's not going to do any of that stuff. It's basically like a glorified Plex player, but like a way better interface, way easier to use, and it's just a convenience factor. So, but it's not meant to be like your all-in-one. Like I said, it's not going to do ISO files. It's not going to do MKVs and stuff like that. You got the Z9X Pro for $253, and then you got the Z2000 Pro or Z20 Pro for $372, and then you've got the Z2600 for $647, and then you've got the UHD 5000. This has balanced XLR outputs. So the UHD 5000. So this is kind of almost like an Oppo. So you've got XLR on these, whereas on the Z2600, there's no XLR.
Yeah.
So that's probably where the price difference is on this. So you've got balanced SLR, you've got some more outputs. So yeah, so this one actually has HDMI out as well. So it looks like it has HDMI in, HDMI out. So that plus the XLR, and so you've got your balanced and unbalanced outputs, and then you've got some other. So that's probably what it is.